I'm Claire Whitfield, 37, a commercial lending officer in Indiana. On my daughter's 5th birthday, my father stood up in front of our entire family and announced she wasn't a real grandchild. My mother sat right there and said nothing. Lily was holding a slice of cake. She looked up at me with frosting on her finger and asked me something no 5-year-old should ever have to ask. I didn't scream. I didn't break down. I picked her up and carried her to the car. I drove us home. And Monday morning, I filed documents my father had signed 3 years earlier, papers he assumed were a gesture of goodwill but were actually a binding agreement. By the end of that week, my parents had called me 34 times. Not one of those calls included an apology to Lily. Before I walk you through that Saturday, take a moment to like and subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now let me take you back to the morning of Lily's 5th birthday. Lily was awake by 5:45, already changed into the yellow daisy dress she'd chosen herself at Target 2 weeks before. Paper crown on her head, plastic tiara pinned behind her right ear as a backup. Mom, is today my whole day? Your whole day, sweetheart. Start to finish. Marcus was ironing his gray button-down at the kitchen counter. I finished wrapping the gift, a small purple bicycle, $219, ribbons I'd retied 3 times. I had picked up the cake the previous evening from Cecilia's bakery. 2 tiers, vanilla buttercream, Lily written in silver icing across the top. $70, and every cent of it worth it. Lily padded into the kitchen in her socks. Mom, is Grandma baking a cake too? I paused. Half a second, maybe less. Grandma has her own plans, honey. Ours is special. She accepted it the way little kids accept things. A shrug and a question about whether the purple bike had streamers. Marcus caught my eye from across the ironing board. He didn't speak. He's good at knowing when not to. We had the car loaded by 8:15. Cake in the passenger seat on a folded blanket. The bike wedged in the trunk next to the cooler of fresh lemonade I'd squeeze myself because Lily liked watching me cut the lemons. Lily buckled herself in and began singing the birthday song to herself in the back seat. Marcus drove. I watched the fields pass. Flat farmland, gray silos, a rusted water tower with the county name faded across the side. When we turned onto my parents' street, I noticed Kevin's white pickup already sitting in the driveway, a full hour early. My brother had never once arrived early to anything. Something in my chest went tight. A single, quiet knock behind my ribs. My grip tightened around the cake box. The house was a 2-story brick colonial on a corner lot off County Road 7. White trim, dark green shutters. The row of maple trees my father planted the year I was born still lined the front walk. I thought about that as Marcus pulled in. This house almost wasn't theirs 3 years ago. I had made that not happen. Nobody brought it up much anymore. Mom pushed open the screen door before we reached the steps. There she is. She wrapped both arms around me, warm, close. She smelled of the same lavender soap she'd used my whole life. Then she stepped back, looked down at Lily, and gave her a brief pat on the top of her head. No hug. Lily looked up at her, waiting. Hi, Grandma. Hi, sweetie. That cake looks pretty. That was it. Mom turned and walked back inside. Dad wasn't in the entryway. Wasn't in the kitchen. I could hear a sports broadcast from the back room. Baseball commentary, full volume. Kevin and his 2 sons were already on the couch. Happy birthday, Lily, Kevin said without turning his head. I set the cake on the dining table. Mom fussed with a pile of napkins. I glanced toward the side bookcase and saw it. A thick envelope with a blue binder clip. James H. Whitfield, estate matter typed on the label. Mom saw me looking. She moved quickly. She lifted the envelope off the shelf and tucked it into the cabinet beneath. Closed it with her hip. There's sweet tea in the fridge, honey. Yes, Mom. I didn't ask, but I noticed. And quietly, steadily, I began taking inventory of the room. 3 years ago, Lily's adoption finalized on a Wednesday. Dad called me the following Monday. The bank's coming for the house, Claire. We're behind 60 days. We have about a month. I was in Lily's nursery at the time, folding a tiny yellow onesie. I had a 5-month-old asleep in the next room. I stopped folding. How much? $165,000. $165,000. For the house I'd grown up in, on land my grandfather had tended, under a roof my father had repaired the summer I turned 11. I told him I'd call back. I called Nathan Graves. Nathan had been in my business cohort at Purdue. He'd gone on to estate law in Indianapolis. He was meticulous, and he did not do favors carelessly. "You can do it," he told me, "but not the way your dad is picturing, the way a banker would." Nathan drafted a promissory note, $165,000 at 4% interest, quarterly payments, balloon at year 5. He drafted a deed of trust recording the house as collateral. Both documents included a standard acceleration clause, 2 consecutive missed quarterly payments, and the full balance came due immediately. My parents signed at a notary's office in Greenfield. A woman from their congregation stamped the seal. Mom dabbed at her eyes. Dad squeezed my shoulder. "You saved us, Claire." "I mean that." I wired the funds that afternoon. I never set a reminder. They sent checks for 2.5 years. Then 2 quarters passed with nothing. I had planned to bring it up after Lily's birthday. By noon, 16 adults and 5 children filled the backyard. Neighbors from the street, Uncle Gary and Aunt Helen. 2 of Dad's old work friends. The couple from their Sunday group. The gift table sat on the deck. Kevin's boys had their own separate pile, wrapped in green paper with sports logos. I watched Dad hand Kevin's older son a large box. "Open it, buddy. That one's for both of you." A Lego Millennium Falcon set. I'd priced it once. Over $400. Next to it, a framed photo signed by a retired pitcher Dad had always admired. His handwriting on the attached card, "For the future Whitfield men, Grandpa loves you." Lily walked past, dragging a ribbon from the gift table. Dad stood, stretched, and went inside for another drink. Mom appeared beside Lily. She held out a small white envelope. "This is from Grandma and Grandpa, sweetie." Lily opened it. A single $15 bill. No card. No note. "Thank you, Grandma." Lily tucked it into the pocket of her daisy dress and ran back toward the trampoline. Aunt Helen sidled up beside me with a cup of lemonade. She lowered her voice. "Your dad's still adjusting, honey. He'll come around. Give it time. It's been almost 5 years, Helen." "I know." She squeezed my arm and walked away. I caught Kevin talking to the neighbors near the grill. "Yeah, Dad's been clear about it. Everything stays in the name. That's how he wants it." The neighbor nodded the way people nod when they don't want to wade in. I stood very still by the cake table. I watched Mom carry out plates. I waited for my father to come back outside. 3:10. Lily stood at the head of the picnic table, hands clasped behind her back the way she'd practiced in her bedroom mirror. 5 candles. 2 tiers of buttercream. Marcus had the camera on his shoulder, red light steady. I struck the last match. I stepped back. "Ready, everyone." I started to sing. Dad set his glass down hard. Glass on wood, loud enough to stop me. He pushed up from the folding chair and cleared his throat the way he had before company meetings when he worked at the plant. "Before we do this, I want to say something. Because the estate is coming up and I want the room to be clear." The yard went still. "A real grandchild," he said, "shares your blood. That's the way it works. That's always been the way." He pointed, not at Lily but near her. "Close enough. That child is not a real grandchild. Kevin's boys are in the will. I want that said once, plainly, so no one is surprised down the road." Mom looked down at the vinyl tablecloth. Her hand was flat against it, fingers pressed together. She did not look up. Kevin took a slow drink from his beer. Aunt Helen's mouth opened. Uncle Gary put a hand on her wrist. The neighbor couple stood completely still. Lily picked up the long lighter I'd left beside her plate. She held it out toward me, wick still faintly glowing. "Mom, can I blow them out?" Her voice was clear. Her small hand was steady. I knelt beside her. I wrapped my hand around hers. Together, we blew out every candle. I did not look at my father. If I had, I would not have stayed quiet. I cut the cake. I started with Lily's slice, corner piece, extra frosting flour. I plated it and handed it to her with a yellow paper fork. "Happy birthday, sweet girl." "Thanks, Mom." She took her plate and walked to sit beside Aunt Helen at the small table by the fence. Helen smoothed Lily's hair and pressed her lips together. Her eyes were full. I cut the next slice. I offered it to the neighbor. She accepted it with both hands like I'd handed her something fragile. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a sentence from 3 years ago moved forward. Nathan, at his desk, looking over his glasses at me. "This loan protects them. It also gives you standing if you ever need it. I hadn't needed it. I had let the sentence sit. It was standing now. Aunt Helen touched my elbow. Are you all right, honey? I smiled at her. I made it reach my eyes. I'm fine, Helen. Have some cake. I pulled out my phone and typed to Marcus under the table. 15 minutes. We leave quietly. No scene. He looked up across the yard and gave a single nod. I wrapped half the cake in foil for Lily to bring home. I thanked Mom for hosting. I gathered the cooler and the gift bag. Mom caught my sleeve at the screen door. Honey, please don't be upset. You know how your father is. He's always been that way. I looked at my mother. I looked at her hand on my sleeve. I kept my voice low so Lily couldn't hear. I'm not upset, Mom. I understand exactly what happened today. Her grip loosened. I carried my daughter to the car. That was the part they hadn't accounted for. I understood. That was the thing that would be dangerous for them. We made it 4 miles before she asked. Marcus was driving along the back road, fields on both sides. Lily was in her booster seat with the foil plate of cake on her lap. Mom. Yes, Bug. Am I not a real grandchild? Marcus's hands went tight on the steering wheel. He didn't speak. He eased the car onto the shoulder and stopped. Gravel crunched beneath the tires. He cut the engine. I unbuckled. I turned around in my seat. Lily's dark eyes were steady on mine. Lily Rose Whitfield. Look at me. Okay. You are a real daughter. Mine and your dad's. You are a real granddaughter. Grandpa James doesn't understand that yet. That's his failure. It has nothing to do with you. Why doesn't he understand? Because he's decided not to. That is a choice he is making. It is not a true thing about who you are. Lily turned this over the way she does. Slowly. Seriously. Fork paused halfway to her mouth. So he's wrong. He's wrong. Okay. She took a bite of cake. She held the next forkful out to me. I leaned forward and took it from her hand. Marcus reached over and rested his hand on mine where it sat on the gear shift. He didn't squeeze. He just held it. What are you going to do? He said. I watched the fields shift in the wind for a moment. I thought about the documents I had scanned and saved to a folder on my laptop. I thought about Nathan. Do you remember Nathan Graves? Yeah. I'm calling him first thing tomorrow. Marcus nodded once. He started the engine. As we pulled back onto the road, my phone buzzed in the cup holder. Mom's name. I let it ring. Voicemail. 10 seconds later, it rang again. I turned it face down. Lily fell asleep at 8:20, still in her daisy dress. I carried her upstairs. Marcus pulled off her shoes. We left the little moonlight light on because she liked the soft hum it made. I went down to the kitchen. I poured a small glass of bourbon. I opened my laptop. Folder. Whitfield Family Note 2021. I hadn't opened it in over a year. The promissory note. 4 pages, both signatures. James Whitfield and Susan Whitfield, clear on the last page. My signature beneath. The notary seal stamped alongside. The deed of trust recorded with Hendricks County. Payment log, a spreadsheet I'd kept automatically. Each quarterly wire posted the day it arrived. Last 2 quarters, blank. Both blank. I read section 6. In the event of 2 consecutive missed quarterly installments, the lender may at her sole discretion declare the entire unpaid principal balance and accrued interest immediately due and payable, with a 90-day statutory cure period before enforcement of the security instrument. Standard language. I had read 100 identical clauses at work. I opened my email. I wrote to Nathan. Nathan, coffee Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Your office. Family matter. Signed documents in hand. Claire. I sent it. It was 11:04 p.m. He replied within 5 minutes. Saturday 8. Bring everything. I closed the email. I scrolled through the folder one more time. The appraisal was still there at the bottom. Done at signing. $398,000 as of early 2022. Higher now, most likely. I closed the laptop. I just needed to get to Saturday. Nathan picked a coffee place on Route 40 because he knew neither of our families would run into each other there. He was already in a corner booth when I arrived. The folder was open in front of him. Reading glasses on. Claire. Hey, Nathan. He slid a black coffee across the table. He waited for me to sit. I told him in 4 sentences. Birthday cake. What Dad said. What Mom didn't say. He didn't look surprised. He turned the pages. You've got everything clean. Miss Q2, Miss Q3, both over 60 days. That's a standard default. He sketched a diagram on a paper napkin. He's always been a napkin guy. 3 options. 1. Extend them quietly. Absorb it as family. 2. Send a 30-day cure notice. Lets them catch up. Keeps the note alive. 3. Full acceleration. 90-day cure under Indiana statute. After 90 days, I filed judicial foreclosure. Option 3. He looked at me over his glasses. Claire, you certain? Ask me tomorrow. Same answer. Your dad will retain someone. Let him. This is going to tear up the family. It already is. I'm just writing it down. He closed the folder. All right, I'll draft the notice today. Certified mail Monday. I nodded. My hand was slightly unsteady around the coffee cup. Not from fear, from the strange sensation of finally letting myself think clearly about a piece of paper I'd been holding for 3 years. Thanks, Nathan. Don't thank me yet. Eat something. He slid half his toast across the table. I ate it, sitting there in that booth, I'll be honest. My hand trembled slightly. Not from being afraid, from relief. It was the first time in years I'd let myself actually look at those papers clearly. If you're hearing this and thinking, don't do it, they're still your parents, I hear you. Tell me in the comments what you would have done. And if you've ever stood between forgiveness and accountability, hit like so I know you're with me. Let's continue. 9 o'clock Sunday evening. She called for the 11th time in 28 hours. I was folding Lily's birthday outfit into the hamper. Marcus was in the living room with a book. The dishwasher was running. I answered, Mom. Oh, Claire, thank goodness. I've been trying to reach you. I was worried sick. About what? A pause. A breath. About us. About yesterday. Okay, what about yesterday? Your father didn't intend any harm. That's just how he talks. Next birthday we'll do it differently. I was thinking we could host for Christmas again. Low-key, nothing big. Mom! Yes, honey. While you were just speaking, did you say Lily's name once? I listened to my mother breathe. I mean, you know what I mean. I'm asking what you said, not what you meant. Claire, don't be like this. I'm not being any particular way, Mom. I'm asking a direct question. Did you say Lily's name? You're making this harder than it has to be. You had a moment yesterday. He stood up. He said she wasn't real. You could have said one sentence. One. You chose not to. Your father would have. I know what Dad would have done. I'm asking what you chose. I didn't choose anything. That is the same as choosing him. Honey, go to sleep. You're worked up. I'm not worked up, Mom. I'm very clear. Good night. Claire, good night. I set the phone down on the dresser. I finished folding Lily's dress and smoothed the daisy print flat. I put it in the top drawer. Downstairs, Marcus looked up from his book. Your mom. Yes. She apologized. She apologized without saying Lily's name once in the whole call. He closed his book slowly. Okay, then. My mother had been handed a chance. She had used it to protect my father. Monday morning, First National Lending, 7th floor. I had a 9:15 with a construction company renewing their credit line. At 8:58, my phone lit up. Nathan, certified mail sent. Tracking number attached. Expected delivery Wednesday. I read it. Set the phone face down on my desk. The document was attached. Notice of default and acceleration. 3 pages. Addressed to James and Susan Whitfield at the property, serving as collateral. Full balance called $186,327. Cure period, 90 days from receipt. Nathan's signature at the bottom. I closed the attachment. I opened my calendar. My 9:15 walked in. For the next 4 hours, I was a banker. I reviewed collateral valuations. I approved one credit line. I declined another. I ate a chicken sandwich at my desk at 12:50. No one at work knew any of this. There was no reason for them to. Work and family were separate rooms with separate doors. At 3 o'clock, I drove to Lily's preschool for early pickup. Her classroom aide handed me a folded piece of construction paper. To Mom from Lily. Inside, 3 stick figures holding hands. Me, Dad, Lily. The sun was an orange oval. Every face was smiling. Lily climbed into her booster seat. Mom, I drew our family. I see that, honey. It's perfect. I didn't draw Grandpa James. I looked in the rearview mirror. Her face was calm. Factual. That's okay, Bug. You can draw whoever you want. He said I wasn't real. I know he did, but you still drew the people who know I am. She thought about that, nodded once, looked out the window. I drove home. I just needed to get to Wednesday. My job is helping people understand what paperwork means. That Wednesday, I had sent some to my parents. Meredith called me Wednesday at 2:45. She was on a break from her hospital shift, an overhead page audible in the background. Meredith was Kevin's wife, or rather, Kevin's estranged wife. They had been separated for 8 months. She had the boys. He had his truck. Claire. Meredith. Mom Susan just called Kevin, completely beside herself. Something came in the mail. From a lawyer. Kevin said your dad opened it and went and sat down on the kitchen floor. I took a slow breath. Meredith, do you actually want to know what it is? Oh no. It's legal. It's clean. It's a direct response to something specific. The birthday. Yes. She was quiet a moment. Good. You don't even know the details yet. I was at that house 4 years ago, Claire, when your dad told Kevin you were giving him a loan. I was standing right there pouring coffee. You remember what he said? He told Kevin, and I remember this clearly. Claire's just letting me borrow it. I'll settle up with her later. Borrow, not gift. I heard it. My hand went still on the steering wheel. I was parked outside the preschool, waiting for Lily's class to come out. Meredith, if it ever came to a formal proceeding, would you say that on record? Without a second thought. Thank you. There's one more thing. What? Kevin owed your dad money around the same time. A gambling debt. About $50,000. Your dad cleared it out of his own account that same week, which I now assume was your money. The parking lot was quiet. A yellow school bus sat idling at the far end. Lily's teacher walked out holding Lily's hand in a paper sun. Meredith, I'll call you back. That evening, after Lily was asleep, I met Nathan at his office. Marcus stayed home. Nathan pulled up the 2021 payoff record. He saved everything. Claire, the Helic payoff, the amount your wire actually went toward, was $114,618. That's what the bank received. My wire was $165,000. Correct. Where did the other $50,000 go? He turned the monitor toward me. Stamped payoff statement. Final. $50,000 had never reached the mortgage. I called Dad's cell. Straight to voicemail. I called the house. No answer. I texted Meredith. The $50,000. Do you know how Kevin received it? She wrote back in 3 minutes. Kevin mentioned Dad handed him a certified check from his own account. Week of March 14th, 2022. The week you wired, Nathan said. I sat with that for a while. My father had asked me for $165,000 to save the house. He had used $114,000 to save the house. He had taken the remaining $51,000, cut a check, and handed it to my brother to settle a bookmaker's debt. He never told me. He had signed a promissory note for the full amount, then quietly redirected a third of it to bail out Kevin. And then he had stood up at Lily's birthday party and told 14 people my daughter wasn't real. Nathan was watching me. Claire, you okay? I'm okay. Want to amend the notice? Add a fraud in the inducement count. No. You sure? The note is sufficient. Let the paper do the work. I stood. I gathered my coat. I did not cry. Paper remembers longer than emotion does. I drove home. Marcus was awake. I told him everything. He held me quietly for a while. Friday evening, 7:30. Dad called. I put the phone on speaker. Marcus stood in the kitchen doorway, still listening. Claire. Dad. What in the world is this letter? You received the default notice. I received a legal threat from an attorney aimed at your own father. You received a notice of default, which is what happens when 2 consecutive quarterly payments are missed on a note you signed. That note was a formality. You never intended to use it. The note is a legal instrument, executed in front of a notary. You signed it. Mom signed it. I am your father. You are also the borrower on a recorded deed of trust. Don't you use that tone with me. I'm not using any particular tone, Dad. I'm telling you what the document says. I'm calm. I'm clear. You tell your lawyer to drop this. The document speaks for itself. Section 6. 2 missed quarters. Acceleration. 90-day cure. You have the same copy I do. I'll make sure every person in this county knows what you're doing to your own family. Before you do that, I'd like to know where the $50,000 went. Silence. Long silence. I counted. 7 full seconds. What 50,000? The Hellick payoff was 114. My wire was 165. I have the bank's receipt. Nathan has the bank's receipt. I'm asking you directly, Dad. What happened to the other 50,000? Claire, that is none of your concern. That is entirely my concern. I lent it to you. Marcus's jaw tightened in the doorway. I shook my head at him. Let me. You have changed. I grew up, Dad. Good night. I hung up. Marcus exhaled slowly. 7 seconds of silence, Claire. I have never in my life seen your father not have something to say. Saturday morning, 9:45. Doorbell. I looked through the side window. Mom alone. She borrowed the neighbor's sedan. She was holding a loaf of banana bread wrapped in a blue dish towel. I opened the door. I say, Claire, honey, can we sit down? Kitchen, not the living room. Lily was in the living room with a cartoon and a bowl of cereal. I walked Mom past the hallway, straight to the kitchen, and pointed at a stool. Sit. She sat. She put the banana bread on the counter. She began to cry. You're taking our home. I'm not taking anything. The document is doing what documents do. Where are we supposed to go, Claire? Where? You have 90 days. You can list at the current market value, around 400. Enough to pay the note and purchase something smaller outright. Nathan knows a good realtor. You would do this to your own mother? I sat down across from her. I kept my voice low. Mom, 2 weeks ago, you had a 5-year-old standing in front of a birthday cake. Her grandfather announced she wasn't real. You could have said her name. You chose not to. You asked me whether I'd do this to you. I'm telling you, I'm doing paperwork. You did something harder than that, and you did it to a child. Her mouth trembled. I don't recognize you anymore. Mom, I love you. I also love my daughter, and she was hurt in your backyard. Until you understand that, the door is open, but only this much. She left the banana bread on the counter. She walked to the borrowed sedan. I put the banana bread in the trash. Lily doesn't eat bananas. Mom had never once noticed that in 5 years. Aunt Helen called Sunday around noon on her way home from the late service. Honey, it's all over town. Your father's been on the phone with every lawyer in the county. I figured. Half of them know Nathan. Most of those called him back already and told your dad his position is weak. One took a retainer anyway. Let me guess. Glenn Sherwood. Of course. Claire, are you certain you want to go through with this? Helen, were you at Lily's birthday? I was. Did you hear what my father said? I did. Then you know exactly what I'm doing and why. A long exhale on the line. I could picture her at her kitchen table still in her church earrings. I want you to know, I am not taking your father's side in this. I know, Helen, but your mother is unraveling. She came to the women's group Wednesday night and couldn't hold herself together through the whole meeting. And what I'm hearing is, it's not about you, Claire. It's about your father. She is terrified he'll leave her if they lose the house. That fear has been in this marriage a long time. That doesn't excuse what she didn't say at the party. No, it doesn't. It's just information. I looked out the window. Marcus was pushing Lily on the backyard swing. She was laughing. Head back. Helen, I appreciate you telling me. One more thing. Pastor Williams asked me specifically about you. Not your father. You. He asked if you were going to be all right. What did you say? I said she will be. Thank you. Whatever happens from here, I'm on the side that was on that child's side that afternoon. She hung up. My mother was afraid. I understood it. It didn't change what she had chosen. Tuesday, 10:20 in the morning. I was reviewing a term sheet when my assistant buzzed. Claire, your brother is in the lobby. He's not come. Is he being loud? Getting there. Tell Stephen I'm on my way. Stay at your desk. I took the elevator down. Stephen, our head of lobby security, was already stationed near the front desk. Kevin was pacing near the door. Carhartt jacket. Keys in his fist. Claire, Kevin, this is my workplace. You're doing this here. You're dismantling our family. You have 60 seconds. After that, Stephen walks you out. That's policy. That note was never meant to be used. 55 seconds. Claire, you have to. The 50,000, Kevin. That's what Dad handed you in March 2022 out of money I lent him. I have the payoff statement. You have the check he gave you. Do you want to have that conversation right now? His face went a color I hadn't seen since we were teenagers. You don't know what you're talking about. Meredith was there 3 years ago. She remembers the exact conversation. She'll sign a declaration. Kevin looked at Stephen. Stephen stepped forward, a gentle hand on his arm. Sir, let me walk you back out to your vehicle. Kevin pulled away, then let himself be guided. He looked back at me from the revolving door. You used to be a sister. I used to lend you money, Kevin. That's not the same thing. He left. The door hissed shut. Stephen turned to me. Everything all right, Miss Whitfield? Everything is fine. Thank you, Stephen. No incident. Just visiting hours ending. I went back upstairs. My 11 o'clock was waiting. I reviewed their collateral. I approved the renewal. I did not shake until I was back in my car at 6:10. And only for a minute. Thursday, I picked Lily up at 3 o'clock. Her teacher, Miss Amara, pulled me aside at the classroom door and kept her voice low. Mrs. Whitfield, Lily drew her family today. 3 people. Herself, you and her dad. When I asked about grandparents, she said she wasn't sure she was in that family. She watched my face. I didn't want to pry. I just thought you should know. She's been quieter this week. Thank you. I'll talk with her. In the car, I drove 1 block and pulled over under a large oak tree. I turned around. Lily, you didn't draw Grandma Susan and Grandpa James today. No. Can you tell me why? I wasn't sure I was in that family. I unbuckled my seatbelt. I climbed into the back. I sat next to her booster seat. I took both of her hands. Lily rose. Listen carefully. You are in our family. Me, Dad, you. That family is real. That family is solid. No one can remove you from it. Okay. You also have other grandparents who love you. Grandpa Rob and Grandma Diane in Wisconsin. They have loved you since before you could walk. You have Aunt Helen. You have Aunt Meredith. You have cousins. You have a family. It's not the one Grandpa James is choosing. It's a different one. A bigger one. Can we draw that one? Tonight. Big paper. Every single name. She squeezed my hands. Mom. Yeah. I'm really glad you're my mom. I'm really glad I'm your mom, Bug. That night we drew a tree. Wide branches. I wrote every name. Marcus, me. Lily, Rob, Diane, Helen, Gary, Meredith, Caleb, Owen, and Biscuit the dog at the bottom, roots thick and warm, taped to her bedroom wall. She fell asleep looking at it. Day 45, Nathan forwarded me the response. Glenn Sherwood, Esquire. Watermarked letterhead. 3 pages of argument, 1 page of demands. Claim 1. The $165,000 was a gift, not a loan. Promissory note executed under emotional duress tied to the adoption of Lily Whitfield. Claim 2. Claire Whitfield is a stop from enforcement by her pattern of familial forbearance. Claim 3. Demand for deposition under Indiana civil procedure rules. I drove to Nathan's office on my lunch hour. He had the letter spread across the conference table. Claire, this is a bluff brief. There's no case law behind either claim. Why send it? Intimidation. Sherwood is betting you'll fold before a deposition. Families usually do. I won't. I know that. But look at this. He tapped the second page. Read paragraph 4. I read it aloud. The note was executed under a manufactured environment of familial urgency tied to the ongoing adoption proceedings, specifically the addition of Lily Whitfield, a non-biological minor, to the Whitfield household. He said her name. Nathan looked at me. He said her name in a legal filing arguing that your adoption of her was part of the manufactured urgency. That is now on record. It's admissible in any related proceeding, including any future challenge to the will on grounds of discriminatory intent, if you ever chose to go that route. I don't want the will. I want the note repaid. Understood, but we'll depose on it anyway. It creates a useful record. I looked at Sherwood's letter. I looked at my own, hands folded on the table. I'll be ready. 2 weeks. My conference room. Day 55. A long conference table. 22nd floor downtown. Stenographer to my left. camera on a tripod. Glenn Sherwood across from me, charcoal suit, silver tie, cufflinks. He'd done this 1,000 times. He wanted me to feel that. Nathan to my right, legal pad. Still. State your name for the record. Claire in Whitfield. Ms. Whitfield, do you love your father? I do. Is that relevant to the promissory note? I'll ask the questions. Of course. Why did you give your father the $165,000? I didn't give it. I lent it. Those are different things. The difference is documented in a promissory note that my father signed voluntarily before a notary. Did you ever actually intend to collect? Not until my father stood up at my daughter's birthday party in front of 14 people and announced she was not a real grandchild. The stenographer's fingers paused for a half-second. Sherwood glanced at his notepad. Miss Whitfield, isn't it true that you are using this note to punish your father for an unrelated family dispute? I am using this note because 2 consecutive quarterly payments were missed, because Section 6 was triggered, and because I am a secured creditor with legal standing. My personal feelings about my father are my own. The contract is separate. You work at a bank. I do. Convenient. Nathan made a note. Mr. Sherwood, is convenient a question? Sherwood's face went stiff. He turned a page. No further questions on that line. He moved on. He found nothing further. I walked out at 4:20. I drank a full glass of water in the elevator lobby. My hands were steady. Day 75. Friday night, 9:05. Kevin's truck pulled into my driveway. No call first. Headlights swept across the garage. Engine ran for a full minute before he cut it. I opened the side door. Come around back. He walked around the house, shoulders hunched. Unshaved. I gestured at the porch chair. He sat. I stayed standing. What do you need, Kevin? How much to make this stop? $186,327. Same as the notice. Claire, come on. You know Dad doesn't have that. He doesn't. Mom doesn't. You don't. So there has to be another. Kevin, you have roughly $50,000 of mine. If you returned it with 3 years of interest, you'd be repaying what you already owe. That would apply. I don't have $50,000. Then sell the truck. Liquidate what you can. Tell Meredith. Work it into the custody settlement. That is your problem to solve. It is not mine to absorb. He rubbed his face. You've gone cold. You took money from me 4 years ago and never said a word. Then you sat on a couch at Lily's birthday and drank a beer while Dad said she wasn't real. I'm not cold. I'm keeping track. Go home, Kevin. He stood. He walked to the top of the steps. Stopped. You know what? Forget it. What? Nothing. Night, Claire. He got in the truck. He drove away. Marcus came out with a glass of water. You okay? I'm not angry anymore. I'm just waiting. 15 more days. If you've made it this far with me, I want you to know something. Across those 75 days, I didn't lose a single night of sleep. Not because I'm hard, because I trusted paper. I trusted the words I had written down back when I still had every reason to be generous. You have papers like that somewhere in your own life, too. Leases, agreements, letters written on nights when you still believed in people. Keep them. If this story has helped you even a little, send it to one person who needs to hear it. Let's walk into day 90 together. Day 89. Wednesday evening, 6:15. I was unloading dishes. Mom called. I answered. Mom. Claire. Tomorrow is the day, isn't it? Yes. Is there anything at all that would change this? Mom, I want to ask you one honest question. I'll try. On Lily's birthday, when Dad said she wasn't a real grandchild, did you, in your own heart, agree with him? The line went silent. Honey, I'm asking you, truthfully, somewhere in yourself, did you agree? A long breath. I don't know anymore. Then that's your answer, Mom. Claire, I'm not angry. I'm clear. A 5-year-old was standing next to a birthday cake. You had one moment to say her name. You didn't, because somewhere in yourself, you weren't sure she counted. That is what I am responding to. Not with rage. With paperwork that was already in a drawer. Please, one more week. Indiana law doesn't give me one more week. I'm not inventing a deadline. If you and Dad want to list the property voluntarily, you can still do that. That option remains open even after Nathan files. It's the gentler path, Your father won't agree to that. Then that's his decision. Oh, Claire. Mom, I love you. Get some sleep. Tell Dad to find a good realtor, not Kevin's friend. Someone experienced. I'll text you Nathan's referral tomorrow morning. I hung up. I finished putting the dishes away. I stacked the coffee mugs on the top shelf, handles facing right, the way my mother had shown me when I was 9. Daniel came in. How'd it go? She had her last chance. She used it the same way she used the first one. I'm sorry. Me too. I went upstairs. I stood in the doorway of Lily's room and watched her sleep for a few minutes. Day 90. Thursday morning, 9 o'clock sharp. Nathan filed in Hendricks County Circuit Court. Judicial foreclosure complaint. Docket number assigned at 9:08. Lease pendens notice filed concurrently with the county recorder. Nathan called me at 9:39. It's in. Lease pendens recorded. The house is now legally encumbered. It cannot be sold, refinanced, or transferred until the note is satisfied. How long until trial if it actually gets there? Indiana typically runs 6 to 9 months on a contested file, but it won't get there. Settlement comes the moment the lease pendens hits public record. It always does. Okay, Claire, public record is public record. Any title search on that property from this morning forward will show it. At 11:15 that same morning, I heard this later from Aunt Helen, Dad drove to Tri-State Community Bank in Greenfield. He sat down with a loan officer he'd known 15 years. He asked to refinance the house. The officer ran a title search. The lease pendens appeared. The officer looked up. James, I can't help you today. Dad pushed back. The officer turned the monitor toward him. James, go home. Call your attorney. This is a judicial foreclosure filed this morning. No one in this county will touch this file. Dad drove home. He sat in the driveway for a long time before going inside. That afternoon, a man he'd worked alongside for nearly 20 years, Tom Abernethy, who runs the title company downtown, called as a courtesy because he had seen the filing come across his desk and didn't want Dad to be blindsided. James, your daughter's name is on the lease pendens as the secured creditor. I'm real sorry. Dad didn't answer. He ended the call. I didn't post anything. I told no one. The law announced itself the way law does. Sunday, 3 days after the filing. Aunt Helen called it. Family meeting at your parents' house. 2 o'clock, come. Don't come alone. Marcus came with me. Meredith was already there. Helen and Gary, 2 of Dad's longtime friends from the plant, Dennis and Hal. Pastor Williams in the corner armchair. 14 people in that living room, counting myself. Dad stood by the fireplace, red-faced, mug in hand. My daughter, he said loudly, is trying to take the house we spent our whole lives building. I let him go. 10 minutes. I let him reach the end. Helen looked at me. Claire. I stood. I walked to the coffee table. I set down a manila folder. I opened it. 3 documents, paper clipped. I turned them to face the room. 3 years ago, I lent my parents $165,000 to save this house. It was a loan, not a gift. Here is the evidence. I slid the first page forward. Promissory note. Signed by Dad, by Mom, by me. Notarized. March 2022. Second page. Deed of trust recorded with Hendricks County. File number right here. Third page. Judicial foreclosure complaint. Filed Thursday morning, after 2 consecutive missed payments and the expiration of a 90-day cure window. I looked up. I am not taking anything. The house is collateral on a loan. The loan is in default. I'm enforcing a contract my parents signed. That is all. Pastor Williams stood. He walked over to the table. He read each page carefully. He set them down. Uncle Gary. James, did you sign this? Dad didn't answer. Meredith, he signed it. I drove Susan there. I was in the waiting room. The room went still. Dad lifted the folder. His hands were unsteady enough that the pages rattled. He turned to the last page of the promissory note. He saw his own signature. Beneath it, my mother's. Below both, the notary's seal, Margaret Holt, Hendricks County, the same woman who attended their congregation. He lowered himself slowly into the nearest chair. Mom rushed over, put a hand on his shoulder. He shook it off. You knew, James. You knew every word of this. I signed it. I was in the waiting room. 12 seconds of silence. I counted them. Helen spoke quietly. Susan. James. Claire gave you that money to keep this roof. You took it. No one is manufacturing facts here. Dad looked up at me, eyes wet, furious. All of this over that girl. I didn't raise my voice. No, Dad. Because of you. Because at Lily's birthday, in this backyard, in front of 14 people, you decided my daughter didn't count. I'm not doing any of this because of Lily. I'm doing it because of a contract you signed and a choice you made. They belong together. Pastor Williams stood. He looked at my father. He looked at me. James, I'll be at the house Tuesday if you want to talk. He walked to the door. He put on his coat. He did not wait for an answer. Dennis and Hal followed within a minute. Uncle Gary pressed my shoulder on his way past. Mom stood motionless in the center of the room. Dad stared at the folder on his knee. I collected my documents. I nodded to Meredith. We left. Meredith caught me at the car. Claire, hold up. Marcus took Lily's car seat from me. Lily was already buckled in the back, cheek flat against the window, asleep. Meredith pulled a folded paper from her coat pocket. Bank statement. Kevin's checking account. March 2022. The exact cashier's check clearing the next day. I pulled it from our joint account before I filed the divorce papers. It's mine to use. Meredith, thank you. You might need it. Either way, you have it. How are you holding up? Divorce finalizes Tuesday. Custody goes our way. Caleb and Owen have been asking about Lily. Any weekend. We'll do pizza. Yeah. She paused, looked at the house. Claire, one more thing. Your dad tried to call Glenn Sherwood this morning at 7 a.m. to cut Susan out of the will, to punish her for co-signing. Sherwood told him he couldn't do it. The lease pendants locks the house until the debt is paid. His only leverage is gone. He has nothing left to rewrite. I absorbed that. Thank you. Drive safe. I got in the car. I looked at Lily in the mirror. Her face was soft in sleep, mouth slightly open, a small smudge of peanut butter at the corner of her lip. Marcus started the engine. We pulled out. The maple trees along the front walk were taller than I'd remembered them as a child. What are you thinking? Marcus asked. That my parents didn't lose a house today. They lost the ability to pretend that silence means the same thing as love. Yeah, let's go home. We drove out past the flat fields. The sky was turning that late October color, gray at the edges, a thin line of gold at the horizon. Lily slept the whole way. 3 weeks after the meeting, Sherwood emailed Nathan. Our clients have agreed to list the property voluntarily. Settlement in lieu of foreclosure. Please confirm terms. Nathan called me. Claire, they're done. House goes to market. Current comps put it at $410, give or take. After commissions, closing, and your payoff, they net around $190. Clean. Enough for a 2-bedroom condo in the area. Paid outright with a reserve. That's fine. I can still push for attorney's fees. 7, maybe 9,000. No. Claire, I'm collecting the amount in Section 3. Principal and accrued interest. $186,327. Not a dollar more. I'm not in this to profit from my parents' bad year. I'm in this because the agreement they signed has to mean something. Understood. I'll draft the settlement terms. I hung up. Marcus was at the stove stirring a pot of soup. Lily was at the counter pushing crayons around a coloring page. Mom. Yeah, Bug. Is Grandpa James coming for Thanksgiving? I set my phone down slowly. Not this year, honey. Is he mad at me? He's mad at himself. Grown-ups sometimes do that and point it at the wrong person. Oh. She went back to coloring. Green cat, orange sky, purple sun. Marcus stirred. He didn't look up. You handle that well. I've been practicing. I walked over and kissed the top of Lily's head. Her hair smelled like the watermelon shampoo she'd chosen at Target. She leaned into me without looking up from her page. Mom came on a Saturday afternoon in mid-November. Alone. Her own car this time, the small silver sedan she'd had for years. I saw her through the front window. I opened the door before she knocked. Mom. Claire. She stepped inside. She put her arms around me. She held on too long. I let her, but my arms were gentle at her sides, not the same kind of hold. She stepped back. Her eyes were red. I know Lily is upstairs. I'm not asking to see her. I just came to say one thing. Okay, I was a coward. I was a coward at the party. I was a coward every holiday for 5 years when your father would leave the room the moment she walked in. I knew it every time. I chose him every time. I told myself I was keeping peace. I was keeping myself from having to choose. I nodded once. Keep going. I don't expect you to let me back in right away. I don't expect Lily to forgive anything. I just needed to tell you that I know what I did and what I didn't do. In my own words, not his. Mom. Yes, honey. When you're ready to say her name, her full name, Lily Rose Whitfield, out loud, in front of your husband, in the house he's sitting in, that's when you call me. Okay. Until then, the door is open, but only this much. She reached out. She touched my cheek with 2 fingers. She didn't try to hug me again. You're a good mother, Claire. I learned some of it from you. The good parts. Her mouth trembled. She nodded. She walked back to her car. I watched her back down the driveway. I closed the door, quietly, so Lily wouldn't wake from her nap. Meredith's divorce finalized the following Thursday. She got primary custody of Caleb and Owen. Kevin got alternate weekends and 2 weeknight dinners. Dad couldn't bail Kevin out anymore. The house money was tied up in closing. Pastor Williams pulled Kevin aside after the Sunday service and told him the congregation's support fund would sponsor a gambling recovery program in the city on one condition. Kevin attend every week, sign-in sheet, no exceptions. Kevin went. I got a text from him one Tuesday night, late, about 3 weeks in. You were right about what I owe you. I don't know how I fix it yet, but I owe it. I read it. I didn't reply. Not yet. The following Saturday, Meredith brought Caleb and Owen over for pizza. Lily opened the front door in her socks. You're my cousins. Caleb, 7 and serious, we know. Owen, 5 and loud. Can we see your Legos? They sat at the dining room table for 3 hours and built a 400-piece puzzle of a golden retriever. Lily taught Owen to sort the edges first. Caleb taught Lily that looking at the box was completely allowed. At dinner, Caleb looked up at me. Aunt Claire, Mom says we're family. That's right. Lily's adopted, right? Right. So what? I laughed. A real one. The kind I hadn't had in months. That is exactly right, Bud. So what? Owen nodded very seriously over his pizza. Yeah. So what? Later, when Meredith was loading the boys into the car, she caught my eye over the roof. Caleb asked me a question this morning. Why does Grandpa treat Lily different? I told him Grandpa was being foolish about it, and it was wrong. He just said, That's dumb, Mom. She smiled. Kids see it first. Sometimes. Closing day. A Tuesday in early December. Light snow in the parking lot outside the title company. Nathan and I on one side of the table. My parents and Sherwood on the other. No one spoke beyond what the documents required. We initialed 38 pages over 35 minutes. Settlement agreement. Warranty deed. Release of deed of trust. Dismissal of the foreclosure complaint. Dad signed every page without looking up once. When the wire confirmation came through, $186,327 to Nathan's escrow account, the closing agent said, That completes the file. Dad stood. He gathered his copies. He walked to the door without looking at me. Mom stood. She gathered her papers. She walked around the table to my side. She rested her fingertips on my hand. Just that. Claire. Mom. I'm still learning. I know. Keep going. I love you. I love you too. That's why I'm not at your door yet. Call me when you're ready. She nodded. Her eyes were wet. She followed Dad out. Sherwood shook Nathan's hand and left without a word. In the parking lot, Nathan put a hand on my shoulder. That's done, Claire. Yeah. He walked to his car. I sat in mine for 10 minutes without starting the engine. I breathed. In for 4. Out for 6. The snow fell in small, fine flakes. I thought about Lily at home, probably building a fort with Marcus. I started the car. Thursday morning. I went in early before the branch opened. I pulled up the account interface on my screen. I walked myself through the 529 education plan form, the same form I had helped hundreds of clients complete over the years. Beneficiary, Lily Rose Whitfield. Date of birth, August 3rd, 2021. I funded it from the escrow account Nathan had set up, the full $186,327. I added a note in the internal memo field for my own records. Returned principal. Hers to learn anything she wants. I hit submit. Confirmation came back in green. Account live. Lily wouldn't know about this for years. 13 years maybe. I tell her when she was 18, the week before she chose her next step. College, trade school, a year of figuring it out, anything at all. Whatever she chose, the money would be there. No will, no conditions, no real grandchild clause. I looked out the window. Indiana in December. Bare trees, gray sky, a single red cardinal on a power line. My father had tried to decide which grandchildren counted. He had used his estate as the tool. It hadn't worked because his leverage had been borrowed from me in the first place. The money he had used to make that decision was now in my hands, and I had passed it forward. Not to him, to the child he had refused. That wasn't revenge. That was a ledger being corrected. I closed the screen. I picked up my coffee. I walked to my 9 o'clock. We moved Thanksgiving to our house that year. 11 people around the table. Marcus and me. Lily, Marcus's parents Rob and Diane, who came down from Madison in their old Volvo and brought a pecan pie. Meredith and Caleb and Owen. Aunt Helen and Uncle Gary. And Pastor Williams, who Helen had invited and who arrived in his best sweater with a bottle of sparkling apple cider. Mom had called the Tuesday before. Claire, I'd like to say happy Thanksgiving to Lily. On the phone. Just that. I'm not asking for anything more. Okay, Mom. I handed Lily the phone. Hi, Grammy. Hi, Lily Rose. Happy Thanksgiving, sweetheart. Lily smiled. Happy Thanksgiving, Grammy. We're making pie. That sounds wonderful, honey. Bye, Grammy. Bye, sweet girl. Lily handed me the phone. She said my name, Mom. I know she did, Bug. I heard. On Thursday, we cooked half the day. Lily peeled sweet potatoes with Meredith at the kitchen counter. Caleb and Owen ran laps around the living room with dish towels tied around their necks like capes. Diane made biscuits from memory. At dinner, Pastor Williams said grace. Lord, we are grateful for the families we were given, and for the families we chose, and especially for the families we rebuilt, piece by piece, when they needed rebuilding. He looked around the table. He paused at Lily's face. He smiled. Amen. Amen. Everyone said. Lily cleared her plate. Owen had 3 biscuits. Caleb asked for seconds of turkey. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table, the same way he had on the afternoon 12 years earlier when I told him I was ready to start a family, whatever shape that took. Sunday night, after the leftovers were put away and the dishwasher was running, I went upstairs. Lily was asleep, moon night light on, one hand tucked under her cheek. I sat at the small desk in the hallway. I opened my laptop. I found the folder titled Whitfield Family Note 2021. I right-clicked. I renamed it. Lily's Future Fund. I clicked Save. I closed the laptop. Marcus came up the stairs carrying 2 mugs of chamomile. He handed me one. He leaned in the doorway. Still angry. No, not anymore. I'm sad, but sad and angry aren't the same. Sad I can carry. Yeah, I looked through the doorway at Lily, at the family tree still taped to her wall, at the roots I had drawn wide and warm at the bottom of the page. I stood. I walked into her room. I leaned over her bed. I kissed the top of her head. She didn't stir. You are a real daughter, I whispered. You are a real granddaughter. You are ours. I closed her door quietly. My father had tried to tell me which of my children counted. Paper I had written on a generous day had told him otherwise. That was the lesson I wanted to leave quietly in the place where I keep the things I am certain of. If Lily's story has stayed with you, tell me in the comments. Have you ever put something in writing to protect someone you love? If you have, share it. Someone out there needs to know they're not wrong for signing their name to protect what's theirs. Hit like if you believe steady is stronger than loud. Subscribe for more stories about people who chose quiet certainty over visible anger. And check the description. I've linked 2 more stories that walk the same road.